That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about The 355, the sophomore film directed by Simon Kinberg, which is the first major studio film to be released in 2022, courtesy of Universal on January 7th.
This director?
Simon Kinberg, his first film, well, he was a producer, but he directed the X-Men film Dark Phoenix a couple years back in which Jessica Chastain starred as at least a compelling looking villain. That is not, however, a good film. This film is also a reunion of Édgar Ramírez and Penélope Cruz, who previously were brother and sister as Giovanni and Donatella.
Okay. The basic story is there are 4 women plus 1. The main 4 are Jessica Chastain, Lupita Nyong'o, Penélope Cruz, and Diane Kruger.
Yes, as Mace, Khadijah, Graciela, and Marie, respectively.
They are all together because there is a hard drive containing malware that will...
we are told that it can overtake any closed system on the planet.
It's like a very generic situation, and they are searching for this drive. But the drive is bouncing back and forth from like bad guys to good guys to bad guys. Ultimately, with the help of the +1, played by Bingbing, they secure it. The end.
Oh my God! You skipped over this plot is so convoluted and goes. Okay, so are we going to talk about the plot with any sort of finesse, or
could I just read my first 3 notes? What am I watching? What is happening? And I couldn't care less.
Yes.
So that's why my synopsis is so... It's just such a, like you said, a convoluted narrative for something that feels so generic and familiar.
It is. It was written by Kinberg and Theresa Rebeck, who has story credit on Catwoman, which is a film... If I had story credit on that, I would have taken my name off of it. But it feels very much like how it sounded when this major package was coming together in Hollywood, when all these like very notable women were attached to this project, and it plays just without any sort of narrative finesse or any kind of real characterization. So instead, it feels like all a conglomeration of cliches where we just like threw some female agency on top of it and called it a day. When these women deserve such a better script, because I like all of them and they are all phenomenal performers, but this film does the disservice to everyone involved. It starts out in Bogota, 150 miles south of Bogota, which we learn this drug kingpin has this drive that he's unaware of what it's doing, and it's being hunted by Jason Fleming, playing a character named Elijah Clark, and we later learn that he's a financier for a international terrorist group. He's trying to get his hands on it. There's a melee. Édgar Ramírez ends up taking the drive because he knows about it and absconds to Paris, where he's then hunted by the CIA and all these other international agencies. And then we are introduced to Jessica Chastain as Mace. She had this love-hate relationship with a cohort named Nick, played by Sebastian Stan. They have to go undercover as a married couple named Joel and Ethel. And then they sleep together, ostensibly to perfect their deep cover. And then it seems like she falls head over heels in love with him, which just really doesn't make any sense.
I think what makes better sense is to explain how these 4 women know each other. So Jessica Chastain, she's connected to Sebastian Stan, like you said, but then his character ends up getting killed, but we don't see it. So immediately we know, like, he's probably not dead. And he's not. He's actually, like, it's a ruse because he's actually a bad guy trying to get a hold of the drive to sell it to someone else. But then, of course, he says, no, I was in deep cover. But anyway, so there's that connection. Khadijah, Lupita's character, is an old friend of Jessica's. And Khadijah is, like, a tech genius. So she's on board to assist with that. The only reason Édgar Ramírez's character means anything is because he has a therapist who's played by Penélope Cruz. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, so on Édgar's phone, he has an app that's tracking the drive. But then he's killed. Somehow...
In his death throes, he changes the access to Penélope Cruz. But that's a major plot hole because they have a tech genius played by Lupita Nyong'o.
So Penelope is part of the group because she is the only one who can open the phone that's tracking the drive. And then Diane Kruger's character is part of some German agency who's also hunting for the drive. So she's kind of like working with them. So that's how they're all a part of it. Then Fan Bingbing, she's some Chinese operative who's also looking for this drive, and she has orchestrated an auction to get all these like mega rich bad people to come and bid on the drive, which makes no damn sense. But she explains that she just held this auction to like fish for bad guys, because really she is not giving them the drive. It's just a decoy. I just think that's so stupid. So that's how these 5 people are attached.
More or less, yes. And then they're doing this thing where they have Chastain and Kruger facing off as like alphas who are also have similar kind of romantic issues / relationship issues, control issues, which again were almost interesting elements, but none of them kind of coalesce into anything.
What did I like? I think there are a lot of interesting actors, which is cool. I think the movie looks nice. That's it.
It was shot by Tim Maurice Jones, but some of the shot sequences are
really odd.
Really odd. Like the first moment where Chastain meets Lupita, who they're old cohorts, and she goes to kind of clandestinely get her to come on board with this rogue mission she's putting together. And they do this 360 pan around the women and Lupita's boyfriend that just does nothing but make you dizzy for no apparent reason.
I also thought the fight scenes were not... I don't know if it was... It feels like they're shot strangely to compensate for maybe a lack of choreography. Something doesn't feel at the level it should.
Perhaps. I will say it's better than another Jessica Chastain film, the action movie that came out last year called Ava, which was, I think, direct to streaming and was not... it did not screen for press. And then Diane Kruger has also been in fare like this before, such as The Operative, an Israeli thriller from early 2020, which, if you like her, I would recommend it for Diane Kruger. But really, if you're not familiar with any of these foreign or international actresses, this film does them a disservice. Like, I did find it interesting seeing Fan Bingbing perform in English, but if you're really a fan of her, I really recommend I'm Not Madame Bovary from 2016.
They have Lupita looking crazy in this terrible wig, and they give her a scar that is never explained.
Yeah, not that I recall. Khadijah, which of course was Queen Latifah's name in
Living Single, which is about 4 ladies.
Yeah, in a 90s kind of world.
So there are several scenes I just think don't make sense, and I think the tone of the film is really odd because it almost feels like it could be like a Charlie's Angel type thing, but there's zero humor. These characters have no personality or pizzazz. Oh gosh. So then I think the centerpiece of the film is the auction.
Which kind of reminded me, because of Lupita's presence, of like they were trying to do the Black Panther casino.
So these 4 ladies show up in a BMW and they're supposed to be dressed to the nines. 3 out of 4 look crazy. Mm-hmm. Jessica Chastain has like this awful like hair.
It's a Betty Page bang job.
Looks terrible with this like regular ass dress on. Then Lupita's wearing like a pantsuit, and then they try to do some with that terrible wig of hers. The worst is Penélope Cruz. She's dressed like she's going to her husband's funeral with like a $20 wig on. And what makes that look even worse is that it's her character who's responsible for seducing one of these bad guys to figure out which piece of art he's bidding on, because that will let them know which piece of art has the drive hidden in it. So that's the bulk of that scene.
It is, and it's the only moment where Penelope gets to kind of act cutesy, because
it's so uncomfortable.
Every other scene with her, she's just calling home to talk about what her kids are eating that her husband's preparing
and how she shouldn't be where she is right now.
I
think Penelope Cruz was that's how she felt being in this movie. Like, I shouldn't be here right now.
All I remember really about her character is that her kids aren't allowed they have to eat dairy-free ice cream. And why do I know that? So there are a lot. Again, these ladies deserve such a better script, and I can't. For all of Chastain's hard work in getting this off the ground, I think. I can't believe that she didn't ask for some rewrites.
At the 53-minute mark, they save the world. Like, they get the drive, and then like the four ladies get the drive. They return it to, because Jessica is part of the CIA, so they return it to her boss.
But she's not at this point because she's so. In early on,
But what I was gonna say is it's at the 53-minute mark of this 2+ hour movie, so we know that like something's not right.
Right, because the movie is 2 hours and 4 minutes.
So the twist is her boss, the CIA boss,
Played by John Douglas Thompson,
is like a bad guy. He's also trying to get a hold of the drive to, I guess, sell to someone else.
Yes. So early on in the sequence where Jessica and Sebastian Stan are undercover as Joel and Ethel, we're told he's killed, and she's basically has to be reassigned. She has to be taken off of this. And her boss tells her, if you were to go out on your own to avenge the death of your teammate, I would understand. So he's telling her to go rogue, which is extremely sus and silly. But it's one of many moments like that, because
There's lots of bad dialogue that I don't even feel like reading.
the auction sequence also makes no sense, whereas people that are this powerful and this nefarious
Wouldn't be at this auction.
well, they'd be using envoys. Yeah.
Well, also the auction is a ruse for this secret auction that's happening online. So it's like, if the auction's happening online, why are these bad guys showing up? We also see in the scene people doing like bidding remotely. Mm-hmm. I just didn't understand that scene at all. There's another scene where the women are talking, like they're sitting like having dinner and they're talking about their first kills. Mm-hmm. I thought that was so odd because the pacing of it made it seem like there were jokes intended, but someone forgot to write them.
Well, it's trying to do too many things, and it's almost like it wants to be a comedy. And in fact, it probably would have been better served to have a energy of like Elizabeth Banks' Charlie's Angels movie. That scene where they go to the auction feels very much like when Kristen Stewart does that dance sequence in that mansion. But it also doesn't lean hard enough into gritty moments, and there is a moment of like incredible violence that feels kind of very much out of place. But it's almost like it took all the same stereotypes and we're just gonna like squirt female agency on top of it and call it a day, instead of really kind of trying to figure out who these women might be and what they would be like.
The violent scene is so. When we find out that Sebastian Stan's character didn't die, in fact, it was a ruse to sort of get a hold of this drive to sell to some bad guy. When he delivers the drive, the bad guy realizes that it's a decoy. So it's at that same moment that we see the four ladies, and that's when we meet Fan Bingbing, because now they're all together in her little dirty ass loft. And while it's all happening, it seems like the way it's shot that it's all happening at the same time. While these women are sitting there talking, like the henchmen for the bad guy all show up at the homes of each of these four ladies' loved ones, and then kills like
all of them except for Penelope's.
And that's when Jessica Chastain's character speaks up and says, "Okay, fine, we'll give you the drive," which I thought was so funny, because if I was Lupita and I just watched my man get killed, and then you want to go ahead and save Penelope's man, like. And
then what's really egregious after that is Mace, Chastain, is telling her basically, you need to go home, you're not able to work anymore because of this trauma. And it's like, go home.
She's like, talking to her like she has like a sore throat, like you should just
clock out.
Yeah, you should go ahead and clock out. Like, okay.
And then of course it feels like it was a first draft of a script with a lot of the dialogue, because they try to give Diane Kruger, where she talks about herself having daddy issues early on with her boss, which we could infer that if you just showed us a couple key sequences. There are just too many ridiculous things. The worst might be the end, where it spits out what the title means.
Go ahead.
Which is about Washington's undercover female spy whose name is not known. She's only known as Agent 355 during the Revolution, which I'd rather have a biopic about her, or an imaginary one, since no one knows who she was. But And then Sebastian Stan is poisoned with ice that Jessica Chastain has laced with some ancient Chinese poison that's, we're told, is a mixture of the venom of all these creatures. That is told to us in such a ridiculous way that, I mean, it's not even fun laughable. It's just hokey.
And the film, like the final scene is the women leaving, like wherever they had Sebastian Stan's character hemmed up, and they see a family walking by, and they say, oh, they'll never know how close they were to like losing it all, but we saved the day. And then they imply like they'll meet again, like there could be a sequel. And I didn't need it. I didn't enjoy this thing. The story was whack. There's so much corny dialogue. I wrote down several lines I don't feel like reading. The fighting's not that interesting. I think Jessica Chastain as an action lead feels like a little kid playing with guns and going like pew pew pew.
She felt kind of like studio era women's picture where we had people like Greta Garbo playing Mata Hari, or Dietrich in Dishonored, which is a Joseph von Sternberg film that I do recommend.
Or Alyssa Edwards on Drag Race All-Stars with the wig and no makeup playing with the gun. She also reminded me of that.
Sure. The only one of these that really seems to match the energy, I think, is Diane Kruger. And she also cleans up the best in that auction
She's
sequence.
The only one who looks good at the auction scene.
The end credits totally waste one of my favorite Peaches songs, Boys Want to Be Her.
What would you give this film?
I want to note that it's a film that I would have liked to have enjoyed. I didn't. I would like to see more films geared towards or calibrated with this kind of level of high-profile women starring in it that isn't a Marvel movie. But this isn't it. So unfortunately, you know, the studio releasing it the first week of the year probably is a testament to what they also feel about it, I think. And while I would like to see this film be a success, I didn't enjoy it. I don't think it's good. I would give it 1.5 out of 5 stars.
I would give it 1.5 as well. Thank you.
Bye.